Your Ford is choking on its own exhaust right now, and the one modification that fixes it is being targeted by regulators across the country. I've been working on Fords for over 15 years, and the factory exhaust on your F-150 or Super Duty is one of the most restrictive setups ever bolted to a truck. Ford didn't design it for power, they designed it to pass federal noise tests. Today I'm exposing what Ford is hiding inside your exhaust, why this modification is being banned state by state, and why the window to do it legally is closing fast. Let's start with something most Ford owners do not understand. Your factory exhaust system is actively working against your engine every single day you drive it. Most people think of the exhaust as just a pipe that carries fumes away from the engine. That is a massive oversimplification. Your exhaust system directly affects how much power your engine makes, how efficiently it burns fuel, how hot your turbochargers run, and how long critical engine components last. Ford installs exhaust systems with deliberately undersized piping, restrictive chambered mufflers, and multiple resonator sections designed to kill as much sound as possible. The engineering priorities behind your factory exhaust have nothing to do with optimizing your engine's output and everything to do with meeting regulatory targets at the lowest manufacturing cost. On the F-150 with the 3.5-liter EcoBoost, the factory exhaust transitions from twin downpipes into a single exhaust pipe that measures just 2.5 inches in diameter on many models. Think about that for a second. You have twin turbos force-feeding exhaust gases into a pipe that is barely wider than a garden hose relative to the volume of gas being pushed through it. This creates something called back pressure, and while a small amount is normal, excessive back pressure forces your engine to work harder to expel combustion gases. The turbos have to spool against that restriction. The engine cannot breathe efficiently on the exhaust side, and the computer compensates by pulling timing and reducing boost to protect the engine from the heat buildup caused by all that trapped exhaust gas sitting in the system longer than it should. On naturally aspirated Ford engines like the 5.0-liter Coyote 5.8, the problem is different but equally damaging. The factory muffler uses a chambered design where exhaust gases are forced through a series of internal walls and baffles. Each chamber reflects sound waves to cancel noise, which is great for keeping your truck quiet, but terrible for performance. Every time those exhaust gases hit a baffle wall, they slow down. That creates turbulence inside the muffler. That turbulence turns into heat, and that heat radiates back toward the engine, raising underbody temperatures and reducing the efficiency of the catalytic converters sitting upstream. Ford's own engineering data shows that reducing exhaust back pressure by even 10 to 15% can improve throttle response and reduce exhaust gas temperatures by 50 to 100 degrees under load. For trucks that tow regularly, those lower exhaust temperatures translate directly into longer engine life and reduce stress on turbocharger bearings and seals. I have seen EcoBoost trucks running aggressive towing schedules with stock exhaust systems show exhaust gas temperatures consistently 100 degrees higher than identical trucks with freer flowing aftermarket systems. Over 100,000 miles of towing, that temperature difference is the difference between turbo bearings lasting and turbo bearings failing. A turbo replacement on a 3.5-liter EcoBoost runs $1,500 to $3,000 depending on whether you go aftermarket or OEM. That is money you spend because Ford prioritized passing a noise test over protecting your engine. So why does Ford leave all this restriction in place? Two words: noise regulations. Ford has to certify every vehicle to meet federal noise standards, and the more restrictive standards in states like California that follow CARB regulations. Meeting those standards means over-engineering the muffler and adding resonator sections that exist purely to reduce decibel levels during drive-by testing. Ford is not building your exhaust for performance. They are building it to pass a test, and you are paying for it with reduced power, higher exhaust temperatures, and shorter component life on critical parts like turbochargers, exhaust manifold gaskets, and catalytic converter substrates that degrade faster when they are constantly running hotter than they need to. Let me break down what the factory resonator actually does, because most Ford owners have never even looked at this component. The resonator sits between your catalytic converters and your muffler. It is a metal canister, sometimes 12 to 18 inches long, that contains internal chambers designed to cancel specific sound frequencies. It does not filter exhaust. It does not reduce emissions. It does not clean anything. Its only purpose is to eliminate the specific exhaust frequencies that sound harsh or droning at highway speeds. The problem is that this sound cancellation comes at a cost. The resonator creates back pressure by forcing exhaust gases through restrictive internal passages. On the F-150, the factory resonator combined with the factory muffler creates a compounding restriction that the engine has to push against with every single combustion cycle. Remove the resonator and replace it with a straight section of pipe, and exhaust gas velocity increases measurably. The turbos spool against less resistance. Exhaust gas temperatures drop because gases are not sitting in the system as long, and you get a noticeable improvement in throttle response that you can feel the very first time you press the accelerator. Now here's where things get interesting and where the word illegal enters the conversation. The modification I am talking about is a catback exhaust system replacement combined with a resonator delete. A catback system replaces everything from the catalytic converter rearward, meaning the mid-pipe, resonator section, muffler, and tailpipe all get swapped for larger diameter, higher flowing components. The catalytic converters stay completely untouched. The oxygen sensors stay in place. The emissions control system remains fully intact. This is the critical distinction that separates a legal exhaust modification from an illegal one, and it is a distinction that most Ford owners, and frankly most people talking about this online, get completely wrong. Under federal law, the EPA prohibits tampering with any emissions control device on your vehicle. That means the catalytic converters, the oxygen sensors, the EGR system, the DPF on diesel models, and the software calibrations that control those systems are all off limits. Removing or modifying any of those components violates the Clean Air Act, and the penalties are severe. The EPA has fined companies millions of dollars for manufacturing and selling parts that defeat emissions controls. FlowPro Performance Exhaust paid $1.6 million. Kooks Custom Headers paid $300,000. Even Summit Racing settled for $600,000 for selling products that the EPA classified as defeat devices. These are not small fines, and the enforcement has been aggressive, with the EPA making aftermarket defeat devices a national enforcement and compliance initiative that targeted hundreds of companies and individuals across the country. But here is what most people confuse. A catback exhaust system does not modify, remove, or defeat any emissions control device. The catalytic converters are the emissions equipment. Everything after the catalytic converter, the resonator, muffler, and tailpipe, exists solely for noise reduction. A resonator does not filter pollutants. A muffler does not reduce emissions. They reduce sound and nothing else. From a federal emissions standpoint, a catback exhaust with a resonator delete is legal because you are not touching any emissions hardware. The EPA focuses predominantly on everything leading up to and including the catalytic converters. What happens after the catalytic converter is a noises issue, not an emissions issue. So why am I calling this modification illegal, and why is the window closing? Because the legality does not end at the federal level. Individual states regulate exhaust noise, and these laws are getting stricter every single year. California already enforces a 95 decibel limit on vehicle exhaust and requires CARB executive order certification for aftermarket parts. New York has deployed acoustic cameras that automatically detect vehicles exceeding noise limits and issue fines without a police officer ever pulling you over. Colorado, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, and Hawaii all have specific decibel limits written into state law, with fines starting at $50 and climbing past $1,000 for repeat offenders. Even states that traditionally had loose enforcement like Texas and Florida are tightening their regulations. The Texas Transportation Code now states that every vehicle must have a working muffler that prevents excessive or unusual noise, and any cutout, bypass, or device that amplifies exhaust noise beyond factory levels can result in a citation. The trend is clear. States are moving towards stricter noise enforcement, lower decibel thresholds, and automated detection systems that remove police discretion from the equation entirely. 5 years ago, you could run a resonator delete in most states without ever getting pulled over. Today, more and more states are actively targeting modified exhaust systems, and the legislative pipeline suggests this enforcement is only going to accelerate. If you are finding this information valuable, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe now, because I am about to explain why what you choose matters enormously, the costly mistakes most Ford owners make, and what is happening at the state level that every truck owner needs to know about. Here is what most Ford owners get wrong about exhaust modifications, and it is the mistake that costs them the most money. They go cheap or they go aggressive, and both approaches create problems. On the cheap side, catback systems under $300 typically use thin-wall aluminized steel with poor internal construction. They sound loud initially, but within months, the internal baffles loosen. The welds crack from thermal cycling, the hangers corrode, and the system starts rattling against the frame. The sound quality deteriorates from aggressive to obnoxious in under a year. I have removed cheap catback systems from trucks with fewer than 15,000 miles on them that looked like they had been through a war. The customer spent $250 on the system, plus $150 on installation, then another $800 on a quality replacement a year later. That equals $1,200 total when a proper system would have cost $800 to $1,500 once and lasted the life of the truck. On the too aggressive side, owners delete the resonator, install a straight-through race muffler, and end up with a truck that drones so badly at highway speeds they cannot hold a conversation. Interior cabin drone on a truck with an overly aggressive exhaust is genuinely miserable on long drives. It creates a low-frequency resonance that vibrates through the cab and causes fatigue over time. This is the #1 reason people rip aftermarket exhaust systems back off their trucks. They wanted more sound and more performance, but they got a truck that is physically unpleasant to drive for more than 30 minutes. Quality aftermarket systems from reputable manufacturers solve this problem through engineering. They use resonated mid-pipes, tuned internal chambers, and specific pipe diameters calculated for the engine's exhaust pulse frequency. The result is a system that sounds aggressive under throttle but stays controlled at cruising speeds. That engineering is what you are paying for when you spend $800 to $2,000 on a quality system instead of $250 on a generic one. The pipe diameter matters more than most people realize, and getting it wrong costs you performance instead of adding it. On EcoBoost F-150s, the sweet spot is 3 to 4 inches for the 3.5-liter twin turbo. Going larger than 4 inches on a stock turbo setup actually hurts performance because exhaust gas velocity drops when the pipe is too large, which reduces the turbo's ability to spool efficiently. You lose low-end torque and throttle response trying to chase a number on the pipe diameter. Bigger is not always better. On the 5-liter Coyote, 2.5 to 3 inches is optimal for most applications. The material matters equally. 304 stainless steel costs more than aluminized steel, but it resists corrosion and lasts the lifetime of the vehicle. Aluminized steel rots out in 3 to 5 years in northern states where road salt destroys exhaust components, and mandrel bent tubing is essential. Cheaper systems use crush bent tubing where the pipe is literally crushed around to form, creating restrictions at every bend point that choke the very flow you are trying to improve. You end up paying for an upgrade that does not deliver because the bends are creating the same bottlenecks the factory system had. For Power Stroke diesel owners, the situation is more complicated, and the stakes are significantly higher. The diesel particulate filter, or DPF, the exhaust gas recirculation system, or EGR, and the selective catalytic reduction system, or SCR, on modern Power Stroke engines are all classified as emissions control equipment. Removing any of these components violates the Clean Air Act, regardless of what state you live in. There has been significant regulatory movement under the current Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA administration, including the removal of diesel exhaust fluid sensor requirements and relaxed inducement schedules for model year 2026 and older trucks. The core tampering prohibition remains federal law. The Clean Air Act anti-tampering provisions are written into the statute itself, And SEMA, the organization representing the $36 billion aftermarket industry, has been very clear that EPA deregulatory actions cannot change what is written in the law. Only Congress can do that. The Department of Justice, or DOJ, clarified in January 2026 that SCR system deletions would no longer result in criminal prosecution, but civil penalties of up to $5,268 per violation still apply. A single deleted truck represents one violation. A shop that deletes 10 trucks faces over $50,000 in potential fines. For diesel owners, the legal modification path stays exclusively in catback territory, meaning everything after the DPF and SCR assembly. A DPF back or SCR back exhaust upgrade on a Power Stroke delivers meaningful gains in exhaust flow and sound without touching any federally protected equipment. Now let me address the warranty question because this trips up a lot of Ford owners. Under the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, Ford cannot void your entire vehicle warranty simply because you installed an aftermarket catback exhaust. They can only deny a specific warranty claim if they can prove that your modification directly caused the specific failure you are claiming. A catback exhaust is not going to cause your transmission to fail or your air conditioning compressor to seize. Those warranty claims remain fully valid even with a modified exhaust. However, if you develop an exhaust leak at the connection point between your aftermarket system and the factory catalytic converter, Ford can rightfully say that is related to your modification. Know your rights. Keep your factory exhaust components stored in your garage so you can reinstall them if a warranty situation arises that requires it. I have seen too many owners throw away perfectly good factory exhaust systems after an upgrade and then panic when they need to return to stock for a dealer visit. Several states are actively introducing legislation that would reclassify any aftermarket exhaust modification as a violation, regardless of whether emissions equipment is affected. New York's SLEEP Act specifically targets modified exhaust systems with fines up to $1,000 and mandatory inspection requirements. California's CARB regulations already require an executive order number for almost any aftermarket part that touches the exhaust system, and enforcement is expanding to include parts that were previously considered noise-only modifications. Multiple states are installing permanent sound monitoring stations near highways that automatically flag vehicles exceeding noise thresholds and generate citations linked to license plate recognition. The regulatory direction is unmistakable. What's legal today in your state may not be legal next year. And once these laws pass, bringing your truck into compliance means spending money to put restrictive factory equipment back on a vehicle that runs better without it. I have seen this pattern before with window tint laws, lift kit regulations, and lighting modifications. The enforcement always follows the same trajectory: loose, then targeted, then automated. And I want to be crystal clear about something. Do not confuse a legal catback exhaust modification with an illegal emissions system delete. I have seen too many Ford owners go down the rabbit hole of removing catalytic converters, deleting DPF systems, or running ECU tunes that disable emissions monitors. Those modifications are federally illegal regardless of what state you live in. Civil penalties can reach thousands of dollars per violation. Your vehicle will fail state inspections. Your resale value drops dramatically because many buyers and dealerships will not touch a truck with deleted emissions equipment. You are also putting additional pollutants into the air that affect everyone. A single deleted diesel truck produces as much harmful pollution as 300 trucks with functioning emissions controls, according to EPA testing. That is not a minor difference. A catback exhaust gives you real performance gains and real sound improvement without any of those risks, without any of those fines, and without destroying the resale value of your truck. Your Ford was engineered to produce more power than the factory exhaust allows it to deliver. The catalytic converters handle emissions. Everything after them is sound suppression that comes at the expense of your engine's performance, your turbocharger longevity, and your exhaust gas temperatures. A catback exhaust modification is the single best bolt-on upgrade you can make to your truck. A quality system from a reputable manufacturer costs between $500 and $2,000, depending on materials, design, and brand. Compare that to a single turbo replacement, which costs $1,500 to $3,000, or a catalytic converter replacement, which costs $1,000 to $2,500, both of which are failures that excessive exhaust restriction accelerates. The catback exhaust does not just improve performance, it protects the components that cost the most to replace. And right now, the legal landscape to do it freely is narrowing every legislative session. Do not wait until your state passes the next round of noise legislation, and you are forced to either pay fines or rip out an upgrade that made your truck run better. If this information was valuable, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment telling me what exhaust system you are running or considering for your Ford. Share this video with other Ford owners before the laws in their state change. I will see you in the next one.